What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to take you guys through a little bit of a different video. This is going to be a new series for this upcoming season, but an old series kind of returning from last season. I actually created a couple of these team selections, and you guys seem to like them, and I enjoy making them. So let me know in the comments down below if you actually enjoy this series and you find it useful. I'm not going to set kind of a likes target, but if you guys do like the video, comment on this video. I will continue this series as I think it's quite useful. So what this video is going to kind of entail, it's going to be a team selection for the ELITE64. Now what is the ELITE64? I'll give you guys some more context, but it's basically the best league in FPL, and it comprises of 64 of the best managers in the world. So I wrote a Python script using the FPL API to check what these managers' teams look like, who they're captaining, what chips they're using, and every single game week I'm going to kind of predict what chances they're going to make heading into the upcoming game week. So obviously in this video, we're going to take a look at game week 1 and predict game week 2. And while we're on that talking point, let me know in the comments down below how you guys got into game week 1. Was it a good game week or a bad one? A great start to the season, a bad start to the season? If it was a little bit of a bad game week, don't worry. This is a long kind of season, 37 game weeks to make up for game week 1. So don't worry too much. So I'll be taking you guys through my own personal team selection later on during the week. So that's why in this video, we're going to focus on the ELITE64 template team and what chances they're going to probably make heading into that game week 2 deadline. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So I do know in the introduction I gave you guys a little bit of an insight into what the ELITE64 is, but now I'm going to go into a little bit more in depth into this very interesting mini league. So that's exactly what the ELITE64 is. It's a mini league created by FPL General. You guys all know General, one of the kind of OGs of FPL. Has a great podcast if you guys want to go check him out, but also a great Twitter page. And that's where I was first introduced to him. So the ELITE64 mini league is actually managed by the FPL General, and it's kind of an invitation only mini league that you guys can qualify for or be invited to. So that's how I actually found my way into the ELITE64 mini league. I won the FPL General's kind of community league. You guys know I have my own Dayvy versus the world. So the season I finished 22nd, I actually qualified or got a free entry into the ELITE64 because I won that mini league. But there is another way to kind of qualify for the ELITE64. It's the Qualifier League. So yes, there's actually going to be promotion and relegation, just like the Premier League. So you guys can almost think of that as the championship kind of level. So with the qualifier, if you guys come top 10, that sort of thing, you get entry into the next season of the ELITE64. And obviously vice versa, if you guys finish from 50th to 64th, you then get demoted to the Qualifier League. So within this mini league, there's a whole bunch of different managers. We have content creators with great rank histories. We have some managers that have just played for such a long time with great FPL histories. So that's why I always like to compare myself in this mini league, and I've been a member of it for the past 4 seasons. So luckily no relegations have actually happened from my point of view. I've actually finished 5th in this mini league for 2 out of the 3 seasons that I've been a member. So far we're doing quite well. So hopefully this season we don't get relegated. Now if you guys do want to go check out this league, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below to the actual FPL League website. So you guys can go check who's in this mini league, and you can see what these managers are actually up to. Otherwise though, you can just watch this video. As I said, I created a Python script that tracks each of these managers. We're going to look at their game week 1 team and the template that was formed. We're then going to look at their captaincy as well as predicting their game week 2 transfers and also their game week 2 team selection and captaincy. But if you guys do have any questions, drop them down below. I'll be happy to answer them, and also might be able to reach out to FPL General if you guys have any more questions about his mini league. So post-production Dave, you're going to hop back on this track. Now I promise you guys, this is going to be for a good reason. I went back to my Python script. I crunched the numbers. I wanted to showcase to you guys why they call this the best FPL league in the world. So I want to show you guys the rankings of all these managers. So you guys know the top 10k, the top 5k, the top 1k. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to showcase in this talking point. So taking the entire 64 managers that make up the ELITE64, we have a total of 334 top 10k finishes, 243 top 5ks, and then 84 top 1ks. So these are not going to be kind of mutually exclusive. If it's a top 1k, it's going to be a top 5k, for example. If it's a top 5k, it's going to be a top 10k. So basically from top 10k down, it's going to be a waterfall effect. So these numbers might not be that impressive. I think they're impressive personally, but to give you guys kind of a context of these numbers, I want to showcase you these on average. So what this basically correlates to is that every single manager in the ELITE64 has an average of 5.2 top 10k finishes, 3.8 top 5k finishes, and finally 1.3 top 1k. So every manager basically in this league has finished in the top 1k on average, and at least 5 times in the top 10k. Absolutely sensational there. That just shows you the class of these managers here. And that's the exact reason why I got so excited, and I think this series could be an absolute banger. So as I said, definitely the best league in FPL. But if you guys have any other leagues, comment them down below. Always interested to see what other leagues kind of exist, and maybe we can make a future video on one of your guys' leagues. So now that I've actually taken you guys through the ELITE64 and shown you guys how many top finishes these managers actually have, how good these managers' minds are, I'm going to take you through the template team of the best league in the world. So we will be going position by position, but please don't think of this as a kind of starting 15, starting 11. These players are simply based on the highest ownership, so you guys can't afford this team, to be honest, but that's not the point of this talking point. So let's start off with the goalkeepers, and the ELITE64 have a 100% owned goalkeeper. It's going to be Danny Ward from Leicester. As you guys know, the 4.0 goalkeeper, we did have news of Kasper Schmeichel departing Leicester, and now we have this kind of 8.0 rotation pair that you guys could have gone with. Now, I actually didn't go for this rotation pair. I do own Danny Ward, and that's why he is owned by 100%, because you either went for him or you have him as your 4.0 goalkeeper of choice, because why wouldn't you have him? He's the only kind of 4.0 that's going to start. So my goalkeeper pairing is actually on screen here. I've gone for Danny Ward and then also Ramsdale from Arsenal. And Ramsdale comes in just below the 36% mark. So yes, I did actually go pretty template, but as you guys know with the ELITE64, if you guys have a similar pick to them, you know that you're probably doing quite well because these FPL managers are absolutely insane. So in terms of Ramsdale, if they didn't go for Ramsdale, they went for Iverson, and then we had that rotation pair. So actually a lot of managers went for that rotation pair. I think it was around 30% of the ELITE64 went for that cheap goalkeeper rotation. And unfortunately in game week 1, it didn't kind of heed many points. Ramsdale on the other hand had a pretty good game week, racking up the clean sheet against Crystal Palace. A little bit unexpected there. I wasn't personally expecting too much returns in that game. But it was nice to see that Ramsdale got the clean sheet, but unfortunately at the save point. We're now going to move on to a slightly more exciting department, but what's more exciting than a kind of 8.0 rotation pair? I'll tell you what, it's going to be this kind of back 4, back 5. We're going to start off with Trent Alexander-Arnold, like Danny Ward, 100% owned in the ELITE64. Perfectly understandable. I mentioned him as one of the most highly essential players to actually own. Unfortunately, this week wasn't that essential, only racking up 1 point against Fulham. A little bit of surprise there that Liverpool defense did not look up to scratch, but hopefully he'll kind of regain form over these upcoming game weeks. Where like with Trent, we have Robertson at 78.1%. Hopefully that double ownership will pay off in the Liverpool defense. So I'm going to quickly move over to Robertson because this was quite interesting for me because in terms of the overall template, you guys know that Luis Diaz was more popular than Robertson. Robertson's ownership was pretty low, but in terms of the more elite managers, Robertson was definitely the favored option to go for. So this just shows you if you guys kind of change your sample size, if you change it from overall to kind of the ELITE64, you'll get different results, and this just shows you that Robertson was actually quite highly owned with these managers. Another two defenders that were highly owned, which came a little bit more expected, were going to be Cancelo and then also Reece James. Both these two options racking up a yellow card in game week 1, but still getting 2 bonus points, which just shows you how attacking, how defensive, and how great they are in terms of FPL. So Cancelo, the second highest owned with just above that 95% mark. Sensational there, and if you guys don't have Man City coverage, I'd advise it. And if you don't have Cancelo, I would try bring him in with these lovely Man City fixtures coming up. Reece James on the other hand, nice clean sheet against Everton. However, I was hoping for some more attacking returns, but it was nice to see him start at that right wing back position because there was rumored that he might start at right centre back. So let's just hope with that 80% ownership, you probably own him like myself. We want him to start at that right wing back start because his attacking threat is just more significant there. Talking about attacking return, Perisic definitely has the potential, but unfortunately not the minutes in game week 1. We saw Ryan Sessegnon and also Emerson Royal racking up attacking returns and minutes for Spurs against Southampton. Now if Emerson and Sessegnon get you attacking returns, imagine what Perisic would do when he gets you minutes, and that's why I'm monitoring the situation there against Chelsea in game week 2, because I think he's going to be read out on my list for game week 3. So just under 25% of the ELITE64 own Perisic. So what I kind of think here is that they brought him in preparation for the upcoming game weeks because there was a strong rumor that he'd be benched in game week 1. So instead of kind of locking in a transfer like myself for the future, they've kind of just brought him in from the start. If he plays, he gets you points, and if he doesn't, hopefully he'll just remain on the bench. But I want you guys to comment down below, do you guys own any of these assets? Did you kind of go super template? Did you go template overall or template to ELITE64? As it seems like there's a little bit of a difference there. Moving on to the midfield department, you guys can probably predict most of these options. Generally, the midfield this season was quite template. We have the expensive options and then the cheaper options. The expensive option obviously being Mo Salah. Now, Mo Salah is not actually owned by 100% of the ELITE64, and honestly, I don't really understand why. I think it was literally one manager in the ELITE64, but I think they're actually rooted to last in the rankings just because Mo Salah banged in game week 1. He's just too much of a risk for me to go without. I mean, I went without Haaland and that punished me. Going without Salah, I can't imagine that with that captaincy. So I think 98% for game week 1 wasn't true because he was captain by basically every single manager, and therefore you can almost double that. Moving on to Martinelli, another popular option, 86%, showing why he might be actually the best Arsenal asset to go for, racking up a goal. What more can you kind of ask from him at that price point? And I think if you guys went with Saka over Martinelli, unfortunately game week 1 didn't go to your hand. Now Arsenal have some great fixtures coming up, so it's not too late to bring in Martinelli if you guys don't own him, because at that price point, great value for money. Unfortunately, the next two options, Bailey and Neto, were super disappointing, but I guess that's what we deserve when we kind of hype up these more budget options. But in preseason, both these players look quite strong, but unfortunately in Game Week 1 that didn't translate to FPL points. So just under 80% ownership for Bailey and just under 50% for Neto. You can probably understand this because Bailey's cheaper than Neto, so maybe most managers with this new template, with these new 8.0 goalkeepers, they opted for the cheaper option to get more money into that starting 11. Now between these two, hopefully they can rebound and fulfill our faith in them because lots of managers have them, as you guys can see. But at this price point, not too much risk even if they don't give us FPL points. And then finally, the 8.0 midfielder of choice. It wasn't actually going to be Luis Diaz. This is kind of understandable with that high ownership for Robertson. But Mason Mount was owned by a quarter of the ELITE64 at 25%. Now Chelsea against Everton was quite a boring game, apparently quite a cagey one. Chelsea had some chances, but this might be a little bit of a tough one for you owners because they have Spurs up next. That game could be super close, might be quite high scoring, who kind of knows, but if you do hold on to Mount, as I would advise, has a nice fixture coming up in Game Week 3 and then onwards. So overall quite template here. I'd say the first four are very template, then Mason Mount was the differentiator, but it was interesting to see that Luis Diaz wasn't even in the top 5. And then finally going to our forward department, Gabriel Jesus obviously going to be very highly owned, not 100% owned, similar to Mo Salah, but I think 2 or 3 managers in the ELITE64 did not own the Brazilian forward. Now this week that did not come back to bite them because he did blank, unfortunately, against Crystal Palace. But a 95% ownership, even if he scored points, the gains on that wouldn't be too strong. There were some massive gains though from Erling Haaland with 2 goals, Man City beating West Ham recently 2-0, and the Norwegian getting both goals, so rewarded you managers that actually went for him. But between Haaland and Kane, it was almost kind of a direct split. Yes, we do have some managers that did not go for a premium forward at all, but between these two, they almost add up to about 95%. Now, most managers will probably go from Kane to Haaland, but we will talk about that in the team selection coming up. So overall, guys, this is going to be the template or the template options from the ELITE64. How many of these players do you guys own? I know myself, I own basically every one of these options, besides maybe a Perisic or a Mason Mount. But this just shows you how strong of a template this season was actually going to start off with. And to be honest, the template actually hasn't done that bad in Game Week 1. But as I said, did you guys actually beat the template? Did you beat the ELITE64 template? How did your Game Week 1 go? Comment it down below. Now before we get on to the team selection, the last bit of kind of Game Week 1 that I wanted to just showcase to you guys was the captaincy debate. Unfortunately this week there wasn't much of a debate. It was going to be Mo Salah and Harry Kane. Now Mo Salah was captained by 95.3%. Now if you guys do recall, his ownership was about 98%, but I will tell you guys that 3 managers in the ELITE64 actually went with Harry Kane. So it was a direct split here. You either went for Mo Salah or you went for Harry Kane if you were 3 of the ELITE64. And this week that was going to be a massive kind of difference with Mo Salah banging and Harry Kane blanking. So I guess if you guys did go for Harry Kane or more differential option, you guys can kind of get some comfort in the fact that 3 of the most elite managers in the world actually went for the Spurs striker. But now let's go on to the team selection and the predictions of the transfers, the captaincy, that sort of thing. Now I'm going to be running through the team selection first, and then at the end of this, I'll be discussing the captaincy debate as well as the transfer plan heading into Game Week 2. I'm going to start off with the bench because while it's not too important, I wanted to show you guys kind of some more ownership stats because as you recall, I didn't really highlight super budget options in my template. So in terms of the high owned kind of budget options, it's going to be Iverson in goal. Understandable. I mentioned that Danny Ward was a popular option in that goalkeeper template. So Iverson's obviously going to complement him quite well. We then have Andreas Pereira, who had a pretty good game against Liverpool. Looks like he's going to secure that spot at cam for Fulham, but I'd like to see him have some more accuracy with those through balls. We then have Neco Williams, who racked up a yellow card, and unfortunately Nottingham Forest are looking too strong, so there might actually be a team to target. So if you guys do own Neco Williams, I probably wouldn't play him too often. And then finally we have Archer, as a very high ownership within the ELITE64. I think it was around 70%, so massive ownership there, much higher than Greenwood from Leeds. So he's definitely the 4.5 forward of choice. So very cheap bench overall, but I think you guys probably also have a cheap bench, and that allows you to squeeze as much money into your starting 11. Talking about squeezing money, it's definitely not going to come from the goalkeeper position because Danny Ward at 100% had to be in the team selection for this week, and with a tough fixture against Arsenal away, I can't see too many points for him. So the ELITE64 template might take a hit in terms of this goalkeeper rotation pair, but I guess they have better fixtures coming up only slightly. So I think if your goalkeeper has a better fixture than Arsenal, you guys will be getting more points in this goalkeeper position because this is a tough game with the form that Arsenal are showing. Heading into our backline though, this is going to be the start of the home fixtures. Game week 2 is definitely a home fixture game week, and usually that results in quite a few points. Now I'm expecting quite a few points from this backline. We have Trent and Robbo against Crystal Palace at home. Now this is at Anfield, and that's why I think I have a little bit more faith in them getting some returns. Crystal Palace against Arsenal not really getting too many chances, and I do think Liverpool have to show up their defense if they want to still fight for the title. So attacking returns, defensive returns could come this game week. I think the defensive returns are more likely just because Crystal Palace are quite a defensively strong side. Bournemouth surprising some managers there. I think Aston Villa were kind of predicted to score quite a few past them, but they actually kept a clean sheet. But I don't think that's going to be this week with Man City hosting them at the Etihad. I think Cancelo almost is a captaincy consideration because the clean sheet looks locked in. Cancelo is getting forward a bunch in that West Ham game, and therefore you could have a combination of defensive and attacking returns. So Cancelo's a great option to go for. James, unfortunately, with that tough fixture against Spurs. Now, this will be a home game for Chelsea, so that might fill you with a bit more faith in him. But I still am comfortable playing Reece James because he has attacking threat, but also Chelsea might keep a clean sheet. So the defense looks absolutely stacked, and going into midfield department, we have some good options and some good fixtures, and as I said, home fixtures galore. So Mo Salah against Crystal Palace, which might be a popular captaincy consideration, but I do think that Crystal Palace defend actually quite well. It seems like against Arsenal on Friday of game week 1, they kind of carried on that threat from last season, and that's why personally this might be a tough game for Liverpool. But who kind of knows? At the end of the day, if Mo Salah scores, he's probably going to be involved in that goal, and therefore he's still in my thoughts for captaincy. Going on to Pedro Neto and Bailey, both have home games. Neto plays Fulham at home, and then Bailey plays Everton at home, and these two games actually will be quite tough. We saw Fulham against Liverpool showing good signs, but I think against Leeds, they might not be able to park as much, and that game might be slightly more open than usual. Wolves scoring against Leeds, but overall not getting the dub, so that is a little bit concerning, but I still am willing to give Neto another chance this week. Bailey then comes in for the ELITE64 against Everton at home. Now Everton actually had a pretty good defensive performance against Chelsea, and with Aston Villa struggling from a forward point of view, this might actually be a game to bench him in. But overall in the ELITE64, I don't have any bench options, but you guys might have, so I'm playing Neto and Bailey and just hoping for the best here. We're then going to move on to Martinelli against Leicester, and if Leicester can concede 2 to Brentford, I think that Arsenal will score a couple past them. So sorry Danny Ward in goal there, but Martinelli could have an absolute field day, along with the rest of the Arsenal forward line. Now I do think he'll start this game because they had a good performance against Crystal Palace. I don't think there's any reason for Arteta to rotate, especially with Smith Rowe only kind of returning to training recently. Moving on to our forward line there, we have Gabriel Jesus, similar to Martinelli, should have a field day. I think it's a great fixture for them. Yes, I might not actually captain him, but I'm still expecting him to get me some FPL points. And then finally, probably the best option in game week 2, it's going to be Erling Haaland coming off hot after 2 goals. I think this might be a hat-trick week, might be a hattie for Haaland, and therefore I would actually consider him to be the best option for captaincy this week. Came off at about the 70-minute mark, so still looks quite fresh. I think he's hungry for goals, showed in his post-match conference that he just wants to get back on the field, score more, and that's why I think in game week 2, there's no questions asked here. He'll be the most popular option for captaincy. So this kind of covers our first talking point. The captaincy, it's going to be between Mo Salah and Haaland, but I do think Haaland will come out on top. Yes, you might have your more conservative managers going for a Salah, but I just think Haaland's the better option to go for. Now moving on to our transfer plan, I think if the ELITE64 started with Haaland, they will bank a transfer this week, but if they do go for Harry Kane, then Kane to Haaland is an easy switch. So game week 2 is quite an easy kind of game week to predict. I think the template's going to stay the same if they started with Haaland, but they will switch to him if they didn't. But overall guys, this is my prediction for the ELITE64 template. Let me know if this team is the exact same as yours. I know for my own team it has a striking resemblance, to be honest, but as I said, I did go quite template for the opening couple weeks, but come that first wildcard, we might see some differentials creep in. Also let me know if you enjoyed this series, like the video, comment down below if you did enjoy it, and then I'll continue it going into game week 3 and so on. But this is the best wrap of the video guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for loads of content coming up this week, so make sure those Twitter notifications are on as well as the bell notifications here on YouTube. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.